As Trump insists the peace deal is not final, U.S. and Iranian media are dueling over what has actually been agreed behind closed doors. Is U.S. media misleading the public, as a supposed full text of the peace memorandum of understanding takes the internet by storm while Iran publicly disputes its accuracy? Iranian outlets are slamming major American networks for circulating what they call inaccurate and incomplete information about the U.S.-Iran peace deal's real terms. Are the U.S.-Iran deal terms still a closely guarded secret, as Iran's Tasnim news challenges U.S. media claims and hints that the true memorandum of understanding text has yet to be seen? American and Iranian outlets are giving sharply different stories about the draft U.S.-Iran memorandum of understanding, especially after purported full text was published. Japan's Tasnim-linked sources say the text that Bloomberg released as the complete 14-point memorandum of understanding is not accurate and that its description of all clauses is significantly incomplete. These Iranian sources argue that, by prior agreement, the authentic text of the memorandum of understanding will not be made public until it is formally signed, so any full draft now circulating is at best partial. The dispute flared after Bloomberg published what it called the full text of the 14-point draft memorandum between the U.S. and Iran, laying out ceasefire terms, sanctions relief, and follow-on talks. Text released by Bloomberg detailed all 14 articles of the Memorandum of Understanding, claiming, Iran, U.S. agree to an immediate ceasefire across all fronts, including Lebanon. Both sides pledge no future attacks, threats, or hostile action against each other. Tehran and Washington are set to negotiate a final agreement within 60 days. U.S. will lift naval restrictions and restore normal shipping within 30 days. Iran is set to reopen Gulf shipping routes and clear mines to restore traffic. U.S. will back a $300 billion economic reconstruction plan for Iran. Washington will commit to a phased removal of UN and U.S. sanctions on Iran. Iran reaffirms it will never develop or acquire nuclear weapons. Both sides will maintain current nuclear and military status quo during talks. U.S. will allow Iranian oil, petrochemical, and related exports to resume. Frozen Iranian assets are to be released as negotiations advance. A joint oversight mechanism is set to monitor compliance with the final deal. Final talks set to begin after key shipping, sanctions, and fund release steps start. Final U.S.-Iran agreement will be endorsed by a binding UN Security Council resolution. Notably, that same version of the draft text has also been carried by CNN, discussing the U.S.-Iran peace framework, further highlighting the gap between Western and Iranian narratives. A reported draft of a U.S.-Iran deal has triggered fresh debate over the potential cost of ending the war. Leaked details suggest Washington backed a plan involving up to $300 billion in financing for Iran's recovery. The reported memorandum is expected to be formally signed in Switzerland later this week if negotiations succeed. However, neither Washington nor Tehran has officially confirmed the authenticity of the leaked document. The reported proposal is separate from discussions involving approximately $24 billion in sanctioned or frozen Iranian assets. According to the leaked draft, the United States would work with regional partners to support Iran's economic rehabilitation. The reported funding would focus on rebuilding key sectors including energy, transport, logistics, and manufacturing. The document describes the initiative as part of a broader post-war stabilization effort. The proposal quickly sparked questions about who would ultimately provide the money. Reports indicate the financing would come through a private investment vehicle rather than direct government funding. According to Reuters, the fund is structured as a private investment mechanism and not as a reconstruction or reparations program. The investment pool would reportedly include firms and investors from the Gulf, Asia, Africa, and the United States. The proposed fund would operate separately from discussions involving Iran's frozen overseas assets. Vice President J.D. Vance has strongly rejected claims that the United States is handing billions of dollars to Iran. Vance said critics were ignoring the conditions Tehran would be required to meet under the agreement. J.D. Vance said, and I quote, "making the same mistake that a lot of Iranian propagandists are making. The benefits to the Iranians without any of the things the Iranians would have to give up and change. Not a single cent of American money under any circumstance, no matter what the Iranians do, goes to Iran. If the Iranians have done everything we require them to do, then we will allow third countries, such as the UAE, to invest in infrastructure projects in Iran. If the Iranians transform how they interact with the world, we will transform how the world economy interacts with Iran." Unquote. Vance said outside investment would only be permitted if Iran fulfilled all of its obligations under the agreement. He argued that any economic normalization would depend entirely on Tehran's compliance with the deal's terms. Iran's state-affiliated Mehr News has published what it says is a 14-point draft agreement outlining a potential framework for a U.S. Iran deal. According to Mehr, the reported draft begins with an immediate and permanent end to military operations across multiple fronts in the region. The United States would pledge not to interfere in Iran's internal affairs under the reported framework. Washington would formally recognize and respect the sovereignty of the Islamic Republic. The U.S. would lift its maritime blockade measures within 30 days of the agreement taking effect. American forces deployed around Iran's periphery would be withdrawn as part of the proposed arrangement. The Strait of Hormuz would reopen under security and transit arrangements coordinated by Iran. The draft also reportedly includes the release of $24 billion in frozen Iranian funds. These assets would be unlocked during a 60-day negotiation and implementation period. Half of the funds would reportedly become available to Tehran before formal talks begin. The reported concessions would represent a major economic lifeline for sanctions-hit Iran if implemented. The leak surfaced shortly after Donald Trump announced on June 14 that a U.S.-Iran agreement had been completed.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.